Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to my October monthly reflections where we talk about the decks that I have worked with throughout the month of October. So, the last few months, I have been working with a variety of different decks, but I've also been working with one Lenormand, one Tarot, and one Oracle throughout the month. So, these are three decks that I am consistently pulling into my practice and using for various projects, various readings, and various challenges. So the Lenormand deck that I have been working with this month is my Anna K. Lenormand. So this is a deck that it is an indie deck, and it's by the same creators, the Anna K. Tarot. It does come with a couple extra cards, which we see here on top. Here is the backs, and this is just. It's just a stunning little Lenormand. I am absolutely loving working with it. It's definitely become one of my favorite Lenormands. I just really adore the artwork. I think it's so expressive. It's so beautiful. And I have no trouble reading with it and determining, what the cards are. I think it works really, really well. So it's just a gorgeous little Lenormand, great little backs. I think I do want to edge it in black. But again, yeah, just beautiful. I think there are a couple different lilies too, which might have gotten mixed in here, but this is a star card, the snake, just, yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. I absolutely love it. Yeah, there's the second lily. It got mixed in, but there's a couple of different options for cards, for your man-woman cards as well, and it's just, yeah, just a stunning deck. Funny enough, I haven't actually used it yet with the Anna K. Tarot, but I definitely plan to at some point. So that is the Anna K. Lenormand, and that is the Lenormand deck that I have been working with throughout the month in terms of my weekly Lenormand readings, as well as just doing my Lenormand studies, because Lenormand is still a system that I'm still learning. So every month now I have started doing a tarot challenge on Instagram, and I'm using the Lion Hearts Tarot Challenge, which I plan to do, for the, next few months at the very least, if not beyond that. So every month I choose one tarot deck that I will focus on with that challenge. And this month I chose the Bohemian Gothic Tarot because this is a deck, it's a Baba Studios deck. I'm sure we've all seen it. Beautiful backs. This is a deck that I've really struggled to connect with. And at first we just really weren't getting along. It's very, it's a very interesting deck. It's kind of on one hand, it's very whimsical. I do really love this card. It's my favorite card in the whole deck. It's very whimsical on the one hand, but I also found throughout the month that it also really doesn't pull any punches. It can be funny and it can be lighthearted, but it can also be very serious. And I really thought that when I started working with this deck that I wasn't going to be able to take it seriously because of this kind of goofy, monstery artwork. It's just, it's a collage deck, and in some places the collage is a little iffy. But overall, I did find it to be a really interesting reader. I don't know that it's a deck that I would pull out consistently, but I think particularly at this time of year, I think it worked really well. But I was kind of surprised by how versatile it actually was. In some cases it was very lighthearted and fun, and in some cases it got very, very deep and serious, and so I thought that was really interesting. I don't know that I have many decks that really span that spectrum all in one reading. So there would be times when in a single 3-card pull I would have all of those energies together in one. I would have the seriousness and I would have the lighthearted, all in one reading, and I thought that was really interesting. So we're coming around, we're working together. It's definitely a deck that I'm going to hang on to, and a deck that I will work with again. Cannot say that it's like my absolute favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but I was a bit surprised by it, and in a good way. So I think that's that's a really good thing, and I'm going to continue working with it for sure. So the oracle that I worked with throughout the month was the Flowers of the Night oracle, and I did just recently do an unboxing of this, but I actually have been using it all month. This is a deck that was on my wish list for a really long time, and I don't know why I just did never get around to getting it, but I finally did, and I do have to say that I do really like it. It is has fantastic keywords on it, and the artwork is really quite stunning. It's quite simple, but yet detailed, which is really interesting. And I love the dark nature of it with those bright pops of color. Just, just a fabulous aesthetic overall. But I actually found that it was a really great reader as well. And like I said, I love the keywords. I think they were really on point. The little book is really great, and I did use the messages in the book. Particularly in this book, I probably shouldn't have put the book away. There are affirmations for each card. So you have a little bit about the card, the keywords, what it is, little divinatory message, and then it has an affirmation as well as keywords. The affirmation was really what I keyed into in my work with this deck. And I love the backs. I think they're gorgeous. And as I showed in my unboxing and impromptu mod, I did edge this deck in green, which I think looks really cool, which I really like. So this was one that, again, it was another pleasant surprise for me. Kind of a month of pleasant surprises in terms of my monthly decks. The Bohemian Gothic did surprise me in the Flowers of the Night oracle. I kind of knew I would like it, but I was a little bit surprised by how much I liked it. The Anna K. Lenormand I knew I would love because the Anna K. Tarot is one of my absolute favorite decks. So that one was not a surprise at all, but it was a pleasure to work with all month, and definitely looking forward to working with that one again. So let's talk about the decks that I used every week for my weekly readings. So for the first week of October, I used my Isidore Tarot and my Botanical Inspirations deck. Now, the Botanical Inspirations deck is definitely one of my favorites and has been for quite some time. The Isidore was a new deck in my collection. It's one that I did do a modification of, which I absolutely love. I trimmed it and I edged it, and that is on my channel if you haven't checked that out yet. This is a deck that I actually wanted to get for quite a while, and it was an indie deck, and I thought it was out of print, and then I found it on, I think Make Playing Cards was where I found it. So I was just happy that I came across it and I got it, and I do have to say that I absolutely love it. The messages between these two decks were really wonderful. The color palette between the two is just really beautiful. It works really well. They both have that vintagey feel, and I definitely liked the interplay of messages. So here we have the Seven of Cups and the Forget-Me-Nots with Eternal Memories. They work really well together, and I really enjoyed the messages. This will definitely be a pairing that I plan on doing again sometime. So here we have the Ten of Coins with Devotion and Dreams Fulfilled. I mean, just these flip throughs, when I do this every month, when I show the tarot and oracle decks that I work with together, I'm always so fascinated by these decks I've just pulled out of the bags, and as I just flip through them, and the messages that come out, even just in these quick little flip throughs, are really cool. So we have the Page of Swords with Grace and Sweetness, the Two of Swords with Destiny. It's just wonderful. The Hierophant with Hidden Secrets. I mean, really, like, I feel like I say this every month, but I don't know that you could plan that, could you? Here we have the Chariot with New Start and Wisdom. Again, these two, working with these two decks for the first week of October really was just an absolute treat. I really enjoyed it. Got great messages from them. They were a pleasure to work with together, and it was just a lovely experience having these two decks spend the week with me. It was really wonderful. So that was the Isidore Tarot and the Botanical Inspirations. So in the second week of October, I worked with the Santa Muerta Tarot and the Earthbound Oracle. And these are two decks that I absolutely love. I did end up doing a modification on my Santa Muerta, and I edged the deck. I do have video on that. It just, I haven't had time to get it up yet, but we might show that process video at some point. And here is our Earthbound Oracle. Again, two of my favorite decks. I wasn't really sure how these decks were actually going to pair together, but they really did speak really well together. It was very interesting messages, and I really did enjoy the play between the two. So here we have the High Priestess and Cycle, the Lovers and Resistance. It's just has, and I found, as you're seeing here with the Chariot and Permanence, the Lovers and Resistance, that the messages between the two were almost, the Earthbound Oracle was almost pulling out the sort of shadow meaning of each card, which I thought was really interesting. See, we have the Star with Failure, and it was just an interesting way to look at some of these cards that it tended to pull out the sort of opposite, or I don't want to say shadow because it wasn't always shadow, but the opposite energy in the card, like tapping into those energies that we don't often associate with a card. Like, we know that they're there, but they're not our like go-to keywords, right? And so I thought that was really interesting, where the Earthbound Oracle really pulled that different side of the Santa Muerta out. The Santa Muerta is actually it's a really fun deck, and it's kind of lighthearted, and it's generally, even though you think that it's perhaps going to be a darker, harder hitting deck, I actually find it to be quite light and fun, and it was really interesting to pair it with the Earthbound Oracle, which kind of brought it back down into that deep kind of earthy realm, which was really interesting. So it's a pairing that I was a little bit unsure of at first, but they really did work out well together. Like, here we have the Queen of Cups and Growth. I mean, just perfect, just perfect. And it really gave me a chance to have a different, to look at the Santa Muerta in a different light, and to see how it can be seen in a different way, and to really dig deep into those different layers that we don't necessarily always see when we're just looking at a card on surface level. So that was a really interesting connection and relationship between these two decks, which I quite enjoyed. So that was the Santa Muerta Tarot and the Earthbound Oracle. So up next, we have what I think was probably my two favorite pairings for this month. This was the Carnival at the End of the World, and it does have a few extra cards, which I have them here on top. And they're turned the other way because I don't actually read with them. They just hang out in the box. This is a deck that I definitely am planning on trimming like right away here, because it's a deck that it's a little bit hard for me to actually work with. But these two decks, these two decks kind of blew me away. The messages that I received with both of these decks, and the Carnival at the End of the World might be a little bit turned around because I definitely had trouble physically working with it due to its size. It is larger than your typical tarot deck, and it's quite thick, and I had some trouble, so I am planning on modding it to making it smaller so that I can work with it, because these were just they were so beautiful. That whole week I was just constantly in awe of the messages that these two decks gave me. And the Carnival at the End of the World, see, I apologize, I should have checked these. I don't read with reversals, so you can tell that since there's reversals in here, this deck got away from me a couple of times in terms of trying to shuffle and work with it. But these two together, just every time I pulled cards with this, it was powerful, it was deep, and there was so much to unpack, and here, look at this, like death and death. That's a pretty dang powerful message. I kind of love it when oracle decks kind of pull in some of those tarot associations, because you get this kind of opportunity where sometimes you get death and death, or a high priestess and a high priestess, or a hermit and a hermit. It's just really interesting when that happens. See, here we have the Ace of Wands with lust. I mean, how interesting is that? The, you know, Eight of Pentacles with explore. It's just, I just have to say that I was actually really pleasantly surprised by these two decks. And it's definitely, oops, I got some of these upside down too. It's definitely a pairing that I will do again, because it was just so wonderful. Like Wheel of Fortune and Knowledge. I mean, just beautiful. Oops, here we go with the upside down cards again. Anyway, yeah, just I just don't even know what to say about these, because the readings with them were just, they kind of blew my mind, and I am definitely looking forward to using them together again. But I kind of feel like they are very very powerful, which is not something that I expected out of the Carnival at the End of the World. Very almost spiritual in its messages, and that was really interesting. So it's a deck that I kind of take a little bit more seriously than I thought I was going to. And it was just a wonderful experience working with the two. They just worked so well together, just in perfect sync, in perfect harmony. It was amazing. So that was the Carnival at the End of the World and the Oracle of Oddities. So the next week I worked with the Tarot of Curiosities, which is a new deck, which was sent to me by the lovely Barbara. And this deck I wasn't really sure about this deck, to be perfectly honest with you. And I paired that with my Vintage Wisdom, which was a deck that, I'll show you the backs here. So the backs even look really pretty cool together. The Vintage Wisdom is kind of it's one of those decks that's just kind of a consistent reader. You can really rely on it. So, and it has that kind of vintagey, of course, Victorian feel to it, which I thought would go really well with the Tarot of Curiosities. And I do have to say that I was a little bit surprised by this deck. I'm not fond of the whole suit of needles. That's kind of an issue for me. But the rest of them, I actually do quite enjoy them. I got a couple of stalker cards throughout the week. I mean, look at this, the Fool and New Beginnings. It just, you know, every time I do this, I feel like I say the same thing every time. But this is a collage deck, like in the true form of collage, and it was really interesting. It's a little bit on the dark side in terms of its printing, so sometimes it's a little hard to pick up the details, but it's just and it does have some imagery that's a little bit confronting, and a little bit off-putting, and so that was definitely something to work with throughout the week. But I actually was pleasantly surprised by the way that it read. The deck itself is quite large. As you can see, like, this is the trimmed version of the Vintage Wisdom, but even it's like, this is oracle size, and it's a bit big, and I had trouble working with it. I was trying to decide whether or not I was actually going to keep it in my collection. And I think that since I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out a way to trim it, because some of the cards, like this one that we just saw here with the One of Needles, not fond of this suit, really just not. But I love the suit of Locks and the suit of Keys and the suit of, I think they're Vials. And like, this is just a beautiful card. But here we go with the needles. And I mean, the needles are the suit of the swords, so I get it's confronting, it's challenging. And it does follow for the suit of swords, but it's a little bit more confronting than I really want in my tarot deck. But the rest of them are just, I mean, because this isn't a deck that I don't think that many people have seen very often. I hadn't seen it, I don't think, at all before Barbara had sent it to me. And I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by it. It's just the suit of needles that throws me. But I mean, look at this 4 of keys. Like, that is so beautiful. I really am enjoying it. And I can get past the needle suit because I really like the rest of them. I mean, look at that magician. He's super cool. Temperance is beautiful. It's just, yeah, it was a surprise. It's kind of, I think, like a sleeper deck. If you can get past the whole, like I said, the suit of needles, that's kind of it's definitely something that I had to work through, and definitely something that kind of gives me pause. But the rest of the deck is very well done, and I really enjoy it. And the suit of needles is well done as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a well thought out suit. I just don't like the needles. It's really all there is to it. But I really did quite enjoy getting to know this deck. It was really interesting experience. I do think I want to keep it and work with it some more. So it's not one that I'm like, ooh, done with. I need to move it on. It's just, I just need to come to terms with that needle suit, or, you know, maybe, I also thought about maybe I might try to find some other thing to do with the needle suit to modify it in a way that might work a little bit better for me. We shall see. So that was the Tarot of Curiosities and the Vintage Wisdom Oracle. So the last 2 decks that I worked with in October for the final week, and of course moving up to Samhain, was the Zombie Tarot, which this deck totally makes me giggle, you guys. It's kind of great. I didn't know about it, but it's kind of great. And my Halloween Oracle, which of course I have trimmed. And these 2 decks it was just a really fun way to wrap up the end of October. I think it was a really great choice. I really enjoyed it. I actually kind of like the back of the Zombie Tarot. They're not reversible, but I don't read reversals, so that's fine with me, but I think they're kind of cool. And then, of course, we have the Halloween Oracle, which has the kind of funny backs, which really don't fit this gorgeous artwork. But anyway, trimmed, this deck is, it's fabulous trimmed. But these 2 decks together, this is actually a bit more of a serious oracle than I thought it was going to be. But the Zombie Tarot was just as much fun as I really thought it was going to be. These images are fantastic. I so enjoyed working with it. I almost wish that I had picked a little bit more of a lighthearted oracle to pair with it. Because I think that this deck was just so much fun. It has such a great energy. It's kind of, it's playful, it's cheeky, and then some of the cards in the Halloween Oracle are actually kind of hard-hitting and quite powerful, which I was not expecting when I paired these 2 decks together. I was thinking, oh, kind of fun and cheeky on both sides. Definitely fun and cheeky for the Zombie Tarot, but the Halloween Oracle was a bit more hard-hitting than I was expecting it to be, which is, I mean, not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. I really quite enjoyed working with it, and I will definitely be working with it again. I just wish for this fun energy, I would have picked a deck that was just a little bit more of a lighthearted oracle, and I'm trying to think what I even have that would fit that description, and I don't know that I really have a super fun, lighthearted oracle. So if you guys know of any, please let me know in the description box below. I would love to know. I mean, I have affirmation decks, and I have, what we sometimes refer to as a hug decks, and I have serious oracles and all of that, but I don't know that I have a super fun, playful oracle, and I'd really think I'd kind of like to add one of those to my collection. But the Zombie Tarot is just it was awesome. I really enjoyed working with it. The images are great. I mean, sometimes you get great messages though. I mean, look at this, judgment and forgiveness. So, I mean, the messages were really good. It's just, this was a bit more playful and fun. And this was no, okay, we do still have to be serious, even though it's playful and fun. And here we have death and death again. And that's just kind of interesting. Maybe there's some death energy I need to be working with. The 5 of Swords and the skeleton with strength. I mean, some of them are just absolutely wonderful. Temperance with the vampire. That's just kind of funny. Anyway, yeah, I did really enjoy working with these decks together, but this one I was super surprised by. This one I pretty much knew. I mean, I knew I was going to like the Halloween Oracle, right? We've all seen these gorgeous images. I knew that it had to be trimmed right away. The artwork is beautiful. I actually have not touched the guidebook. I hear it's great, but with the keywords, the titles and the keywords, I just really didn't need the guidebook. So I didn't actually end up using the guidebook, and I didn't use the guidebook for the Halloween or for the zombie tarot either. This deck actually comes in a pretty great box, but I don't have room for it in my shelves. I don't have room for many boxes, so I made a bag for it. But this deck was it was so much fun, you guys. I really enjoyed it. I do have the Housewives Tarot, which is, I think, by the same creator, but it has the same kind of style. And now I'm thinking I need to get that one back out again, because that was it was a lot of fun, especially at the end of a kind of, it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the end of October in terms of some family things that were going on. So this was kind of just a welcome reprieve from all of that big, heavy emotional energy that was going on during that time. So I really did quite enjoy that kind of just a little break, and I think it was a great choice for that. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Halloween Oracle, but I kind of wish I had picked something a little bit more lighthearted and fun to go along with the energy of the Zombie Tarot, but still really enjoyed them both. So that was the Zombie Tarot and the Halloween Oracle. So that was a look at some of the decks or really most of the decks that I worked with in October. I do occasionally pull in other decks for other readings, as I'm doing certain things, but I do try to keep to my weekly decks and my monthly decks pretty consistently, so that I am making sure to rotate decks throughout my collection, because I do have quite a few. Now, I definitely have to say that some of my favorites this month were definitely the Carnival at the End of the World, the Oracle of Oddities, and the Zombie Tarot. And of course, and actually the Isidore, which I didn't put out here, but those were definitely my favorites for the month and ones that I'm definitely looking forward to working with again. So moving into November, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in November. I do have some deck mods coming up, a couple of unboxings, and I have a painting tutorial on how I show you guys how I actually add paint accents to some of my tarot cards. And we're also going to take a look at my growing Lenormand collection, and I actually created my own Lenormand deck. So I'll show you guys that as well, and it will be available for sale. I really created it more as a learning tool, but people seem to like it, so I thought, hey, I'll just put it up for sale as well. And we'll also be probably trimming my Carnival at the End of the World, because I do want to keep working with this deck, but it's a little unruly for me to get a hold of. So that's what we'll be working on and taking a look at going into November. I think there's going to be some exciting videos. I hope you guys will enjoy them. I hope you all had a wonderful October, a happy Samhain, and I wish you many blessings moving into November. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.